Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be going over the chest, the muscles of the chest, and the upper arm, which includes one of the most, if not the most famous muscle in the entire body, the bicep! So, let's get right into it. All right, our first muscle we're going to be talking about today is the deltoid. So this is the big giant shoulder muscle that you kind of see out here. Its attachment point originates at a lot of different portions. So it has an anterior portion, a lateral portion, and a posterior section. So it all kind of attaches to the clavicle, acromion out here, and the spine of the scapula, going over to attach on the deltoid tuberosity of the humerus here. And is responsible for shoulder flexion, shoulder extension, shoulder abduction, bringing it away from the body, and it's innervated by the axillary nerve. So very big, important muscle over here. We'll go ahead and hide this now so we can visualize the other muscles that we need to talk about. Big pectoralis major is next. So as you can see, there is two portions of this. There's a clavicular head of the pec major, and then a sternal head, which kind of attaches to the sternum and ribs and the actual costal cartilage of the ribs here. And then it comes over here to attach on the lateral lip of the intertubercular sulcus. The relationship that I remember here is lady in between two majors. What that means is on the actual humerus, there's two lips. So the lateral lip, the medial lip, and then the intertubercular sulcus in between the two tubercles, or the two lips. Lady in between two majors. So the one major is the first major is pec major, attaching on the lateral lip. The lady is the latissimus dorsi, attaching on the intertubercular sulcus between the two majors. And then the other major that we already talked about is the teres major right here, attaching on the medial lip. So the lady being the latissimus dorsi, attaching in between the pec major and the teres major. Innervated by both the medial and lateral pectoral nerves, and is responsible for horizontal abduction, bringing your arm across the body, and internal rotation of the humerus, and adduction of the shoulder. If we hide that one, underneath is our pec minor. So he's right here. So he attaches to the coracoid process of the scapula, which we can kind of visualize right here. There's that coracoid process right there. So attaching there, coming down to attach to the ribs 3 through 5. 3, 4, and 5. And this is responsible for protracting the scapula, so bringing them forward, depressing the scapula, and then is innervated by just the medial pectoral nerve. We can go ahead and hide this guy now. Alrighty. A very underappreciated muscle that I think is really cool is the subclavius, and he's right over here. Subclavius, appropriately named because it sits right under sub the clavicle, and it attaches to the first rib, which is right here, and the actual clavicle here. And very underappreciated, but it really does just provide stability and depression of the clavicle. So in that area, which is really good. Innervated by, it has a cool nerve. Nerve to the subclavius is the actual innervation of the subclavius. So it's pretty easy to remember. Alrighty. Let's move on to everybody's favorite, the bicep brachii. Okay. So we will do, there's two heads to the bicep, hence the bi. So bi meaning Latin for two. So here we'll do the short head first. Okay. So they both have the same attachment down here, which is the radial tuberosity down here in the radius, and the bicipital aponeurosis, which is this broad, almost tendon-like structure that kind of attaches down here near the ulna, but it kind of covers all the flexures of the forearm. So it has two major attachment points, and up here, the proximal attachment is the coracoid process, just like we talked about with the pec minor. And that was that one. So now we can hide the short head. The long head is right here. So long head, also same attachment point, radial tuberosity, and then along with the bicipital aponeurosis, coming up here, you see how this tendon kind of snakes around the shoulder? So this is actually going very close right above the shoulder joint, attaching to the supraglenoid tubercle. And what that means is right above where the shoulder joint sits. It also has a communication with the labrum, the shoulder labrum in there. And that's why sometimes a lot of people get slap tears or slap tears of their labrum in that peel back mechanism of pitchers or overhead athletes. Because if you contract the bicep too much in a forceful motion, you could actually tear the superior portion of that labrum. This is innervated by the musculocutaneous nerve, along with all the muscles here in the anterior compartment of the upper arm. Okay. And then, one more thing about the bicep is that not only does it produce shoulder or elbow flexion, like a lot of people think, but it's not the main elbow flexor. The brachialis is the main elbow flexor. The bicep actually produces supination, so turning your wrist upwards towards the sky is a big portion of the action of the bicep. Moving on here, we have another muscle attaching to the coracoid process, is the coracobrachialis, appropriately named for coracoid and brachialis, meaning arm. It attaches down here to the midshaft of the humerus, also innervated by the musculocutaneous nerve and assisting with shoulder flexion right there. So we can hide that guy there. Moving on to our brachialis. So this is our brachialis. He starts a little lower on the arm, and these are the deeper muscles underneath the bicep. And then he comes over here down to attach to the ulnar tuberosity on the ulna. This is actually our main elbow flexor, so flexing of the arm. All right, go ahead and hide that one. All right, moving on to the back side of the arm here, where we have a couple spaces that we want to talk about. The first important and clinically relevant space is called the quadrangular space. And in the quadrangular space, we have a couple structures that are important here. And it's right here. So here's this little 1, 2, 3, 4 almost squared rhomboid shape. And out of the structure, you can find right here the axillary nerve coming out to innervate the deltoid that was here, and the teres minor, along with this artery right here. There's the posterior circumflex humeral artery, or the PCHA. And so that's just kind of a space that we need to be aware of. The borders of the humerus, the teres major on the bottom, the teres minor up. Teres minor up here, and then the long head of the tricep. And then the last little space here, if we look over here, is called the triangular space. I'm sorry, the triangular interval. And the triangular interval is marked superiorly by where the teres major comes around, and then between the two heads of the tricep here. Out of here, we have an important artery right here, the profunda brachii, or the deep brachial artery. Okay, so now we'll move on to the muscles back here. So the tricep, just like the bicep had 2 heads, the tricep has 3. So we have a lateral head, a long head, and a medial head, which is underneath, which we'll see. So the and these all produce elbow extension, so straightening out the elbow. Okay, so this one, we'll talk about the lateral head first, attaching on the back of the humerus, coming down to attach to this general extensor tendon, or the tricep tendon, which attaches to the olecranon process of the ulna to help with extension or straightening of the elbow. And these are all 3 triceps are innervated by the radial nerve. So we can go ahead and hide the lateral head. Here's our long head. So the long head actually attaches way up here to the infraglenoid tubercle, so right below the glenoid cavity, fossa of the scapula. And then comes down here, same attachment point to the olecranon to straighten out the elbow. Important thing about the long head is that since it crosses the shoulder joint and attaches below the shoulder, it actually produces elbow extension, so it helps with extension. It's the only tricep head that actually helps with extension. And then if we hide both of those slightly lower, it reveals the medial head of the tricep here. It's our 3rd head, starting lower on the humerus, going over, same attachment point, same nerve, radial nerve. But yeah, that's our 3 tricep heads here, hiding all these. This right here is just the actual tendon. They have it listed here. And then our last muscle that we want to cover today is a small guy right here. This is the anconeus. So anconeus is very, very fun muscle here. Also pretty unknown, but starts on the lateral epicondyle of the humerus, right there, going over to attach over on the olecranon process of the ulna. And then mainly its main job is to, again, assist with elbow extension and then just stabilizing the entire elbow joint, which is really cool. And also innervated by the radial nerve, which we can visualize right there. So it kind of runs runs under all the tricep muscles here, and then you can see how it crosses and innervates that anconeus right there. And those are all the major muscles of the anterior chest wall and the entire upper arm. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it down in the comments. I am the PT guy, educating you on God's wonderful creations. I'll see you in the next one.